Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is almost the best time of year because it's almost summertime, which means more time to travel, relax, and do fun things that are really enjoyable. I feel like these past few months have been such good months for new book releases because the new Hunger Games book came out and Fearless, and there are so many books that are still coming out and I'm so excited for them. They have been on my TBR list for at least a few months now, and today it's time to do a little book shopping just to pick up some most anticipated new releases, along with some pre-summer book recommendations. Okay, we are back with the book haul, and I was so disappointed when my local Barnes & Nobles was sold out of the new Watch Me, and I was really looking forward to reading James's point of view. But I did order it, so it should be here in a few days. But I really wanted to pick it up in store because I feel like book shopping is just so much better when you can physically have the book in your hands. But the first book that I did end up getting is Consider Me by Becca Mack. It is a hockey sports romance, and I think it's enemies to lovers. The male love interest is Carter Beckett, who is this star NHL player. He could have any girl he wants, and he's pretty arrogant about it until he meets Olivia Parker, who just isn't having any of that. And based off the book description, I'm getting the impression that she's going to be a strong female main character, which personally for me is a must-have for any good book. The next book I got is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. If you've read Once Upon a Broken Heart, this is by the same author, and I'm pretty surprised myself that I have not read this book yet because I absolutely loved Once Upon a Broken Heart. It's about these two sisters who receive invitations to this magical, dangerous game, and the winner of the game gets like any wish they want granted. But in this game, it's hard to focus on what is actually reality, and there's a lot of deception going on, and you just can't trust anyone or anything because they might be part of the game. If you're into magical worlds or just really liked Once Upon a Broken Heart, I think you would also really enjoy Caraval. The third book is Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf. It's set in this high-stakes, deadly fantasy world where everything is technologically advanced. These giant machines left over from the war are called Heavenbreakers that are now used for bloody jousting tournaments in which the fighters have to fight each other to the death. And I'm pretty sure the powerful houses that rule are the ones that fight in these tournaments to show off their strength. But our main character, I think her name is Sinoli, has a vendetta against one of the most powerful houses because the Duke was the one that killed her mother, and I guess she was supposed to die as well. So now she's out for him, but she is also a fighter in one of these Heavenbreaker machines. She really wants to get her revenge, even though she's starting to fall in love with one of her opponents that she'll probably have to end up kill. But this is just a really high stakes plot with romance as a subplot, but still very much part of the story, which in my experience tends to do really well for the overall plot. The last book I got today is The Reckoning. It is the third book in the Zodiac Academy series. It's about these two twins that find out they're actually magical heirs, but in order to claim their titles, they have to graduate from this Zodiac Academy. And in the first book, they come face to face with all of these rivals and the other heirs because the other heirs are obviously threatened by the new presence. And they basically try to get the twins to leave the school by making their lives at the academy as miserable as possible and by playing cruel jokes on them that almost kill them. But the first book is just all about them settling down into the academy and building the base for for the rest of the story. In the second book, you see even more of a dangerous plot starting to unfold, and I think in the third book is where the danger really starts to take place. Let me just say that I was also skeptical that I would like the series because the books are huge, but when I tell you I read the entire first book in one sitting the same night I got it, and then went to Barnes & Noble to pick up the second one the next day and read that in the same day as well. This series is so entertaining and has me absolutely hooked on the characters and their relationship dynamics. It is definitely enemies to lovers, but everyone starts out actually enemies, and I highly recommend this series. Now for some pre-summer book recommendations, just some books to check off your TBR before summer starts. These are some books that recently came out and are definitely worth the hype. The first book is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. It's the third book to the Powerless series, and I have not been able to stop thinking about this book since I've read it. If you haven't already read this book, you need to. Kit and Peyton are supposed to get married, even though he knows at this point that she's in love with Kai, but is still going to go through with the wedding. And meanwhile, there are also other plots going on, but if you haven't already read this book, you definitely should. Another book to read before summer is Sunrise on the Reaping. It's the newest Hunger Games novel about Haymitch, who is Katniss and Peeta's mentor. It's about him and what his Hunger Games was like. And it just shows his side and his story and why things turned out for him the way they did. And a lot of the pieces and questions really come together in this book. And also this book is just so entertaining and I was absolutely hooked from beginning to end. The next pre-summer rec is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. In this world, mortals and all of the Greek gods and creatures live together, and they're all ruled by one of the 12 gods of Olympus. At this point, the 12 gods have agreed not to fight each other anymore, but to instead have mortals compete in these deadly trials on their behalf. And the god or goddess that chooses the mortal that wins the most trials ends up as the newest ruler of Olympus for the next 100 years. Our mortal main character was cursed to be unlovable, and she has no plans to compete in these deadly trials, but she has a run-in with Hades, and something she does really sticks in his mind because when it's time for the gods to choose tributes, Hades chooses her to represent him in the games, which is really puzzling to Lyra, who's the main character, and to everybody else because she doesn't have any typical experience and skills that the other contestants have. But Hades tells her that he will take away her unlovable curse if she wins and competes for him. This book is a perfect blend of high-stakes plot and romance, and I'm sensing a little bit of a love triangle in the second book, which I cannot wait to read. The last book is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. It is the first book to the Boys of Tommen series, and this book is actually really funny while at the same time being really sweet. There's so much banter in this book, and it's about this girl named Shannon Lynch who lives in a pretty abusive household, and this star player named Johnny Kavanaugh who appears to have everything going on for him. But when she accidentally gets hit in the head by one of his rugby balls, they first meet when she accidentally gets hit in the head by one of his rugby balls, and they start forming a connection. But this is just a really good book to read when you want a really engaging romance. Well, those are all of the books I have for today. If you have any book recommendations, please let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.